Welcome to Talk Across America. I'm Doug Miles, and we're here in beautiful Sarasota, Florida. A real treat for me right now, growing up in New York, kind of a New York-themed show today. We're going to talk to a man who's been a mainstay of broadcasting the news up in the New York area for quite a few years, Channel 2 News in New York, and currently on WWOR, Channel 9. Of course, he's been on the CBS Morning Show and is an award-winning journalist. Rolland Smith joined us by telephone. How are you, Rolland?
And good morning, Doug. I'm fine, thank you.
It's great to talk to you. As we talked a little bit off the air, I've been a big fan of watching you on growing up on Long Island, Channel 2 News for so many years.
I guess I've been around long enough for people to say, and they often do, that, I grew up with you, or I watched you for years, or my mom and dad loved you, all that sort of stuff. It's kind of nice.
I hope it doesn't make you feel old, but it's a compliment. I mean,
indeed it is a compliment, and anytime anybody chooses to bring you into their home, you have an obligation to be kind and listening and, be a friendly kind of guy.
Well, I tell you, when I was living up there, it was just through the 70s, I started watching the news as a kid, and Channel 2 was the premier news broadcast. I mean, you had your 6 o'clock, of course, with you and Jim Jensen for so many years, and then you and Dave Marish, right, the 11 o'clock newscast.
That's right, yeah.
Which was must-see television for newscasts.
A lot of times, and then, of course, Dave left to go to ABC, and then I worked with Vic Miles for about a year or two, and then Michelle Marsh came in.
Michelle Marsh was a favorite of many boys and teenage boys back then, and men of many ages. How's she doing, by the way? I know she's not on Channel 4 anymore. Is she working anywhere?
I've kind of lost touch with her, and I don't know where she is. And I do hope to find that out, though, one of these days. If anybody knows, let us know, huh?
Yeah, I was wondering, because she was a mainstay, obviously, with 2, and then went to 4, and then I don't know what happened to her. But, yeah, of course,
there was some kind of contractual dispute, I guess.
Yeah.
And then she went her way, and NBC went their way.
Now you're on WWOR Channel 9. You've been there for several years. That's in Secaucus, right?
That is correct, yeah.
Well, is that the 10 o'clock broadcast?
I've been there for quite a number of years, Doug, and I basically work weekends. I'm in a semi-retirement mode, although it doesn't seem that way because there's so many other projects that I've been working on that have been, part journalism and part avocational interest. Yeah, just reading your website, and I wasn't aware of your interest in poetry, and you just published a book of poetry. Is that right? I have 2 of them out, Doug.
2 of them,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the first one was called Quiet Musings, and the second one was called Encore, the Poetry of Nature. And if you have a minute, I'll tell you the quick story of how that all came about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, a number of years ago, my youngest son was diagnosed with a brain cancer. And in order to figure out for me on an internal mental level how to help him and how to deal with this cancer, I said to my wife, look, I'm going to take a couple of days and drive up the coast of California because we were living in San Diego at the time. And I'm just going to think, and I'll see you in a couple of days. She said, fine, just, stay in touch. And so I would stop at every beautiful place that I could pull the car over and overlook the Pacific Ocean. And one time, as a journalist, you always carry a pad and pencil with you. So one time I just took out a pad and started to write what I was seeing and feeling and thinking. And when I looked at it after I finished my session there, it was a poem. In almost perfect iambic pentameter. And I said to myself, well, this is interesting. I haven't written a poem since college. And every time I would stop, I would write another poem. Wow. And so obviously my interest in poetry grew. I did some study and took a couple of courses and figured out what I was doing and tried to figure out how to do it better. So it was a kind of a natural thing that just came out in iambic pentameter. It was amazing to me that it did. Yeah. And then, of course, I started writing in other forms also, including sonnets, which is different rhyme schemes. Sure. But I think in many ways it did help me help my son deal with his cancer, although he did pass about 5 years later. And and I still count my interest in poetry and my ability to do it through because of his illness.
It became more of a catharsis for you, or a therapy,
yes,
I guess,
in many ways.
That's great, yeah. Now, these books, are they available in the stores, or do you have to go to your website? Or how can people get them?
Well, the website is certainly one, and Barnes & Noble, you can get them there, and also Amazon.com.
And your website is RollandSmith.com, right?
RollandGSmith.com.
Yep. And you can check that out. Oh, that's great. I was not aware of that. But you did do some essays when you did the newscasts occasionally at the end, right? Where you'd write
that's correct. I mean,
pieces?
I've always been a writer because that's what we do in journalism, as you well know, and those skills translate over into the emotion of poetry.
Really did, and especially at the end of a newscast where you could wrap up,
Yeah, I still do that today. I mean, I do 2 commentaries a week.
Do you?
And
great.
Basically, I call them Some Thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's on just about anything. It can be a contemporary item dealing with the government or the war, or it can be something a little more humorous. Sometimes I'll do it in a limerick, just to tease somebody, or just to create a little entertainment value. Sometimes in what seems to be these days nothing but negative news.
Yeah, New York, covering news is the pinnacle of that profession, but unfortunately a lot of the news that you have to cover is pretty brutal stuff, and I guess poetry is kind of a way to, get away from that, isn't it, for you?
Yes, indeed. It truly is. I mean, to me, I have here part of a foreword that I wrote in one of the books, and it basically said that, rightfully people should ask, what inspires a broadcast journalist to dwell in poetry. And I always say that the quick answer for me is balance, and the long answer involves the heart, spirit, awareness, and nature. And because each broadcast day contains so many of the sorrowful and tragic stories in life that emphasis is placed on information that separates our unique human nature into undesirable parts. And so we need to find ways to bring those parts together to create a oneness, or at least to acknowledge the oneness and the diversity within the oneness that brings us all some peace and some joy in this world.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Talking with Rolland Smith, newsman from New York and WWOR right now. Of course, a few years back, you saw him on the CBS Morning Show. How was that experience for you? I know you worked with Mariette Hartley on that, right?
Yeah, Mariette Hartley was my co-host, and I thought we had a pretty good time together. CBS was trying to figure out what they wanted to do with the morning hours, trying to compete with the Today Show. And ours was the first show that really went away from the news division and was taken over by the entertainment division. And so, while we did news and information and pieces like that, we were not controlled by the news department. And I think they really wanted to do that and made every effort to see that happen.
I know for a while you had a live audience, right?
Yeah, we had a live audience, and
that.
we took the show various places. We went to Mardi Gras in New Orleans. We went to Disneyland. We went to Graceland with down in Elvis Presley territory. It was, to me, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I always felt that laughter informs and humor educates. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of critics who said, we don't need humor and fun in the morning. And I always disagreed with that, but that's the way. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
I
had a good
it.
time, and I know Mariette did.
Yeah, I thought both of you worked well together, and she's very funny. I mean, she's a great actress, but she's very funny too. And I know she does some speaking indeed. Still today, where she does a whole thing on what she's gone through, but in a very funny way. So that humor has helped her life out.
That's correct.
Yeah, and then
I haven't seen her in a lot of years, but we talked a few years back. But that kind of happens in this business. Now, you lose track and in touch with people, and kind of get on and go on with your own life.
Guess the worst part about that job was getting up at, 3 in the morning, right?
Oh, it was the worst. Yeah, only because you had to go to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, I know.
And kids were still up. Try to get a decent night's sleep was often difficult. I don't know how some of these guys do it that do those early morning shows for years and years and years.
I think that's one of the reasons Katie Couric's going to CBS now. He gets out of that early morning shift, right?
Yeah. I wish her a lot of luck with that. But,
yeah. What's the thought in the news business of her taking over the CBS Evening News?
I think it's all positive in the sense that I think it's time that the industry accepted a single lone woman anchor. You don't have to work in a pair all the time, and I think that her qualifications have earned her the right to see if she can be successful. And I wish her much luck.
Be interesting to see. It's been tried before. I think Connie Chung, but that was in a co-anchor position with Dan Rather, and then of course Barbara Walters back with Harry Reasoner. But this is the first as a solo anchor, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah. We just got a few minutes left with Rolland Smith, and you've covered so many of the stories in New York over the years. And can you just a couple of quick highlights of some of the more important ones or more impressive ones?
The most important one is obviously recently. That was 9/11. Mm-hmm. I happened to be standing at an apartment that my wife and I had in along the Hudson, looking out the window that morning, and I saw the plane hit the World Trade Center, and realized then, I said to myself, this is going to be big. Nobody knew, what the genesis behind that was, the Al Qaeda, et cetera, at that time. But that we were on the air for, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 days, solid news and information, and doing the best you can, because all the towers, the television towers, were on top of the World Trade Center.
That's right. Yeah.
So they had to broadcast either on cable or in a different sort of way.
Well, I think that's where television news, in particular, is its best. Now, sadly, sometimes it's bad, circumstances, but when it's a live coverage like that, that's where you guys really shine, I think.
Right. And I think one of the other side of the coin is I did a documentary on the refurbishing of the Statue of Liberty, and I had a chance to spend over a year on that story, literally crawling over every part of the statue and learning about its history and watching the people redo some of the damaged parts. It was an extraordinary experience. Yeah,
of course. So many people got their start in America coming through there. Their relatives did. So it's such an important story for everybody to.
Absolutely, right through Ellis Island. Yeah.
Well, Rolland Smith, it's great to finally catch up with you. I hope we can do it again sometime this summer. But again, a big fan watching you on TV with, of course, you and Jim Jensen, Dave Marish, Michelle Marsh. It was must-see news up there. Of course, Warner Wolf doing the sports. It was a great time.
It really was a great time, and it was a good time for me to talk with you this morning. And please say hello to all of the expatriate New Yorkers down there.
We will. We'll do that. We'll do it again down the road, Rolland. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome, Doug.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Talk Across America. Please visit our website at dougmilesmedia.com for more great interviews and content. And if you're interested in any of the books we talk about on the program, please click the Amazon link on our website. It helps support the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again real soon here from beautiful Sarasota, Florida.